So it's important to understand that we are pretty similar to other big layer 1 protocols like Ethereum. Essentially, we have a foundation in Switzerland, which holds the large amount of the tokens which are reserved for the consistent development.
Decentralization is absolutely the goal, but it has to be done in a sustainable, managed way.
There's a halal DeFi, like a Sharia compliant DeFi, but we need a special token for that because most of the tokens, well, they're not Sharia compliant. I am investing my $1 and I expect tomorrow to see it grew for 100%. It's not about us. We are more to the long sustainable finances. It has to be a separate blockchain, most likely, with the predetermined rules designed from scratch in a way to be Sharia compliant and with a more strict rules rather than the classical DeFi to stay compliant.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome one and all to the inaugural podcast for the HAQQ Network. We are privileged here today to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Alex Malkov, our beloved CEO and founder. Alex, how are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Hi. Happy to be here.
Right. So, just as I said, this is the inaugural podcast for the HAQQ Network series. Now, I'm sure everyone's familiar with who Alex is. We've been very privileged to have him leading the e-ship for quite a while now. But for our brothers and sisters in the community who are to join soon, or maybe listening to this for the first time, listening to the HAQQ Network first time, Alex, do you want to give us a quick intro as to who you are and what you do and so on and so forth?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alex, and I'm one of the founders of the HAQQ Network and the Islamic coin. So currently, I'm acting as the CEO for the HAQQ Labs. So the part that is developing the network and developing the internal products. So I'm managing the core development team as well as our business development efforts and advising on the foundation. So that's pretty much what I'm doing.
That sounds like a lot of work. But just on that very quickly, so it sounds like there's like three separate divisions of or three separate aspects to the network or to the entity as it was that are being sort of overviewed. They're quite distinct if you think about it. Like there's technological development, there's business development, and then there's sort of the more compliance or sort of the infrastructural side of things. How do you find like managing all that? How do you find sort of the time management aspect of all that? Because I imagine it's quite a lot.
To properly understand, I would say both the structure of the project and our responsibility as the core team. It's important to understand that, first of all, we are the layer 1 protocol, right? So we are not owning the chain, we're not owning the blockchain, so it's kind of purpose. We were the people who developed it initially. We were the ones who actually made the project to the launch, to the listings, and actually those who was designing the whole thing, right? Well, I was mostly on the Web3 development and still is. So because we have other founders, we have our brother Mohammed Alkaf, who is responsible for the Sharia compliance and the advisory and the strategy in terms of our core ethos, in terms of how to cater to the Muslim community, how to develop all those products in a Sharia compliant way. So, but currently, I would say it's important to understand that we are pretty similar to other big layer 1 protocols like Ethereum or you name it, because we have a foundation in Switzerland which holds the large amount of the tokens which are reserved for the consistent development, and we have another companies which are basically serving as the development elements, so either software or the business, or they are giving out the grants for the various projects that are coming to the network. So we are at this point, when we are already listed and active, I would say, the most active contributors to the network and the ecosystem, rather than somebody who is owning the chain. And it's very important to understand, because many times I've heard this oh, you the hack, you the token, which is, well, it's not quite true. Yeah, we were there at the inception. We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. but we're trying to encourage more people to become an active contributors, such as ourselves. I mean, in the same amount and the same level as we are. So it is quite a lot to manage, I say, but I'm happy to say, I'm happy to realize actually that, especially during the last, I would say, 6 months, 7 months, we had several amazing contributors coming to the network who are also deploying their projects, deploying their smart contracts, actually buying the tokens, holding them, staking them, and essentially becoming closer to the level of involvement that we are in. So it's a good direction, and it actually helps us to be less occupied with everything at once and focus more on the other parts of the ecosystem and letting others to be more active in certain directions. So it's like a pure decentralization where we are heading to, but of course it's a slow and a complex process. So you're gonna do it in a day.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's something that like I pick up in the spirit of obviously the network itself. This concept of decentralization, and I think it's always to remember. I think it's important to remember. Sorry, decentralization is absolutely the goal, but it has to be done in a sustainable, managed way. Because if you don't, you'll end up with entropy and chaos, and we don't want that. We want to see this beautiful idea, this beautiful project sort of burgeon and blossom and become something that's greater than the sum of the parts. But that's obviously something that takes a little bit of time. I think the other thing that's really cool and really nice, and this is one of the reasons why I love these podcasts, and thank you very much again, Alex, for taking time out of your busy day to join us. But I think there's a degree of perception out there that actually HAQQ Network isn't quite as large, and the tasks involved with developing a layer one protocol, particularly one of this nature, which, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been done before, certainly not to this scale, how big that task actually is. How did you come to the idea of HAQQ Network? You know, what was the genesis of HAQQ Network as an idea? What birthed this concept of HAQQ Network?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. But actually, though, I mean, I think that the best way to lay out this story is to actually look at what was the initial idea between myself and fellow co-founders. It actually started in a very, very, very small question, with a very small question. So back in the day, when we just moved, or not even moved, we just frequently visited the UAE and other Middle East countries, we wanted to find a solution how to build a structure to actually build the first OTC exchanges for the digital assets. I mean, like the most simplest one, like a BTC ETH. So we did, because back at the day there were like literally nothing. It was year 2020, when during the COVID, it's in the midst of the COVID, and we tried to find a structure how to is there a way to legally build an OTC desk somewhere in the Middle East, or operating for the Middle East in a way that it would be possible to offer to the institutional clients or like the high net worth individuals how to actually get starting to make an investments into crypto. So like a very, very basic thing. And there was a particular gentleman who said that that's all good. I looked at the BTC for several years, and like all these ups and downs, and I want to invest, but there is a pickle. Now my whole banking is Islamic banking, so I only have accounts with the Islamic banks because he was Muslim, and he basically asked us whether it's halal or not, because he needs to check it with his advisors, Sharia advisors, and his bank as well as the other institution. It was not a bank per se; it was his asset manager. And we dig into this particular problem, trying to find a way, trying to answer the very simple question: is Bitcoin halal or not? So we found ourselves in this variety of the opinions, of different opinions from different scholars as to whether crypto is halal by design or not, and especially particularly the BTC at the point. And since there was no unilateral decision or unilateral opinion as to whether it's halal or not, we found this very peculiar because, well, the Islamic finance industry is relatively big, and it's actually was booming at the moment. Yeah, because back in 2020, when the whole financial system was actually shaking because of the COVID, it was hard for the Western financial world to sustain it. The Islamic finance industry actually survived it slightly better because there was no such many complex derivatives which suffered because of the economy stagnation or the scrutiny of the COVID. So, and it was very it didn't happen in a day, but we thought that there is a niche for how to actually legally and ethically to invest into such digital assets, because it appeared that this is like a very new and interesting market. But then we thought that, well, it's not enough to find a way how to build it for the BTC or ETH. It's very interesting whether it's possible to do it for the DeFi, because people asked, the DeFi was very popular at the moment, especially during the bear stages of the market, when the DeFi was actually the only way how you actually made money in crypto. So there was whether DeFi can be. It became a question whether DeFi can be halal. Then we thought, yes, DeFi can be halal, but it should be structured in the other way. And we thought it would be cool. It would be great, actually, and very popular if we built a DeFi product which would be Sharia compliant. And slowly but gradually, when we thought about, okay, there is a halal DeFi, like a Sharia compliant DeFi, but we need a special token for that, because most of the tokens are, well, they're not Sharia compliant, so to say. And slowly but gradually, we came to the idea that actually to solve this problem, it has to be a separate blockchain, most likely, with predetermined rules designed from scratch in a way to be Sharia compliant, and with a more strict rules rather than the classical DeFi to stay compliant. Because it's one thing to design it, it's much harder to maintain it as such. And we spent more than a half a year of designing the system and pitching it to what would become our Sharia board, because they were like, no, you can do this, you can do that. And we had to go back and forth, arguing with them about but no, the staking, it can be done in a Sharia compliant way, because in some sense it's a work. You're not just, you're not just sitting there and getting money out of the thin air. So yeah, it took a lot of time to actually get there. But eventually we find a solution. We found a way how to design it, and then things started to move pretty quickly. So I say it's not very short description of how we ended up here, but pretty much how it's unfolded.
I love that. And it seems that this was also a journey for yourself and the rest of, obviously, the founders in the process. Like, from what I just heard, the intention at the outset was never to create a Sharia compliant blockchain per se. It was to create a different product. But as you spent time, you saw that there was a need, because there is a need. I have to be honest with you. Prior to joining the HAQQ Network and ISLM, there was a lot of time I'd spend looking at a token. Is it Sharia compliant? Is it halal? Does it have one of the exceptions? Can I actually invest in this? Am I going to be concerned? And it's just a nightmare. And then you add on top of that, the nuance and complexities of the Web3 world. Is it Cosmos based? Is it Ethereum based? Should I use Kepler wallet? Should I use Trust wallet? Is it MetaMask compliant? And you look at all these things, it gets quite overwhelming over time. And I think this is a slight segue. But I think one of the key issues that I see within the crypto space, and I know Alex, yourself, Andre, and everybody else, it's key. It's a key facet of development at HAQQ Network, but it's barriers to entry and user experience. The harder user experience is, the more friction there is to entry and use case within any product. That's just how, I guess, life works. And I think that's one of the things why Web 2 is currently dominant, because it's been refined over 20, 30, 40, 50 years to the point where the user experience is almost seamless, which is why I'm really impressed with HAQQ Wallet as a product in terms of how it operates and how it operated both on the EVM side and on the Cosmos side, but that's a conversation for a different time. But bringing it back, because I'm really sorry I digress, and forgive me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you'll correct me here, but I think that's sort of the goal of HAQQ Network, isn't it? Everybody has their own little stream, and eventually we're all merging because we all believe in this sort of equitable-based solution within the Web3 space, and ostensibly Sharia compliant. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Alex?
Well, since it's a very somewhat, I would say, intimate discussion, conversation, I can tell you that a lot of the assumptions that we had in the beginning, especially in terms of how the project will be developing, like a mid and long term, many of our assumptions proved to be erroneous. So we realized that we had, I would say, inefficient. Not an efficient perceptive of situation, but actually the classical chicken and egg problem. So initially we thought that the token itself and the blockchain has to first gather required amount of the holders and just the followers, so to say believers in the idea itself, that there would be a Sharia compliant blockchain, that we're all going to be there. It's going to be acting as a holistic ecosystem, so to say. You can name it you can perceive it as a marketplace, and then we're going to build the products there, and somehow people will actually benefit out of it. So it was more, I would say, like a Ethereum approach. Yeah, maybe it's the best comparison here. So we thought, we accumulate enough people, then the developers will come, then they will try to cater to this audience with the predetermined limitations and the guidelines to stay Sharia compliant. So that was the initial thought. But actually now, at this stage, we realized that it's not the case. So we had to pivot even a little bit. Well, not a little bit. Actually, it's a serious pivot in terms of that. This thing, the blockchain itself, the Sharia compliant blockchain itself, is that innovative and that actually hard to comprehend in some instances, that we need to be the pioneers there. So we have to build the first products ourselves, to showcase how those products can actually, in reality, help to elevate the everyday life experience of our core community, the Muslim community, which are mostly dispersed throughout the emerging markets. So how can we actually help them to reach their daily, monthly, yearly goals, to make their life better? And that should attract the required amount of the followers, the required amount of the holders, the users of the network, and only after we get to the mass adoption. Because for us, the mass adoption is a key. I mean, as to every blockchain, I guess, but for us, it's even more essential, because we need to be treated. We need to be considered as the one-stop solution. Yes, it's like one-stop solution for every Muslim all over the world, if he wants to get the Sharia compliant financial and non-financial service.
I want to pivot back to something that you said. And I appreciate, what you mentioned, Alex. I was asking a slightly different question, but I think you hit a really important point there, a very important point. This transition from what the sort of plan for HAQQ Network as it was, say, a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, to where it is now. And I think that's a key facet to consider. Like, it's the same as life. Life doesn't always go the way you planned it. Does that mean that your life is bad or you made bad choices? Absolutely not. And I think I've been going for quite a while. So I think what I'll do is I'll move on to the next question, because this, again, very, very important question. Now, I don't know if you recall, but about a year ago, you did a tweet. And on that tweet, there was a picture of about 6, 7, 8 books based on Sharia compliant financing. And you asked a question: does anybody have any other material that I can read? Now, to be clear, Alex, I have never read 7 to 8 books of Sharia compliant financing. So on this call, you are 100% the expert, my friend. And I defer to your greater knowledge on this matter. But on that sort of, on the spirit of that, I think one of the things that would be interesting is to see, in terms of the knowledge that you hold both in the Web3 space and in the Sharia compliance space. How does Web3 marry, that transparency with Sharia compliant principles, that Islamic financial principles, and how does it connect the dots there, if you don't mind?
First of all, I still have to give a very important disclaimer that even though I'm talking to magnificently smart people and very educated people in the Sharia space, both in financial and outside of the financial industry, and I've been learning a lot from them. And I'm very, very grateful, and I'm surprised by the level of openness and the desire to actually talk about it and help to me to understand it. But even with all these things, I'm still in no sense feel myself not even an expert, but I don't feel that I am even on an amateur level still, just because I just this is a very professional thing, and no matter how deeply I'm involved into the operations, I still rely on those who actually dedicated their career life to that, or dedicate their whole life to that. Yeah, and I'm very happy and grateful that I am being surrounded by people who actually do this, whether it's our brother Sheikh Al Miza, whether it's we're talking about our Sharia board who are involved into the Islamic banking for dozens of years, whether we're talking about our brothers from the Malaysian university, which are helping us to actually train our AI model, and I learned from them a lot about this. But from my perspective, and for during this path that I went throughout last couple of years, I think that the Islamic industry, the financial industry, and actually non-financial as well, because we're not talking just about the financials or the products, financial products. We're talking about even some very, from one side, basic, but on the other side, essential things, essential processes that are happening to the Muslims all over the world. For example, like a Hajj and Umrah, there is a magnificent, enormous potential for the Web3 to actually help to actually make a change. So, from the finance world, I would say it's even a little bit more, I would say, simpler, but it's very complex. So it's not easy to design it. It's not easy to merge them. It's not easy to bridge them, but it's a very complex process. And especially because of the reluctance of the players on the market to risk it. I will give one very short and small example. So one of the things that we're trying to pull off now, we're trying to do, which has magnificent potential, enormous potential, is connected with interbanking financing, how the Islamic banks essentially can provide the liquidity to each other, because they cannot do it in a normal way. Yeah. So in the Islamic finances, it's called tawarruk. So they are essentially lending to each other not the money but the commodities instead. And for that they need a broker. They pay in the broker. Broker provides the certificate for the commodity. The commodity has been loan to the other participant. I'm not going to go into the details, but just for very briefly, on a high level. So by this very day, year 2024, almost 2025, those operations have been done by phone. So people, yeah. So people from banks, they have to call this broker on the phone. They tell them, oh, we need $20 million or whatever other currency to be actually provided to the bank B, and they doing it all over the phone. They sending each other these certificates on paper or via the email, and they paying a lot of the costs all the way. So it is absolutely inefficient, and there is a very clear way how to make it much simpler and much more efficient, and that is what we've done. So the first step was to tokenize the commodity in a Sharia compliant way, which we done with the gold, but the gold is not suitable particularly for the tawarruk because of the Sharia. So we will use another commodity, and I mean this was planned from the very beginning. And even though we are partnering with one of the biggest players in the space, with the DigiCap, which we announced several times, and we designed the whole thing for them, and they're very thrilled and they're actually very happy with the system and the design that we're proposing. Still, it is very, very hard to convince the players on this market that it actually better, that it actually makes their life easier, that it actually help them to save the self costs, to decrease those costs. So yeah, it's a very simple solution, very hard to implement it because of the general reluctance. So I would say that the potential for the Web3 technology, especially in the Islamic finances, is enormous. I mean, it's magnificent. It is unlimited. I would say it's unlimited because we don't know where the limit is. And it can actually help, especially when we're talking about the emerging markets where the access to the classical finance is very limited. Yeah, people are heavily unbanked. They don't have a credit history, so they cannot get a loan. They are relying on a lot of the microfinance organizations, which are trying to help them, but still it's costly, and sometimes people do not understand the risks that it actually contains with them. So the Web3 technology can help there. The DeFi can help there, and HAQQ can help there essentially. But in the how to better do it, it's a still work in progress, and we're doing. From where I'm sitting, we're doing a wonderful job of showcasing how exactly the Web3 technology can help the industry to grow.
There is a topic that we definitely need to cover, and I'm so excited to get your take on this. Firoza Finance and Barakah. I'm not going to lie. Firoza, to me, is a huge platform, and the amount of things that could be done with Firoza Finance, insane. Barakah, again, the amount of things that could be done with Barakah, insane. And I think the word I'd use to explain this is it empowers the users of the network. It empowers the users of Firoza Finance and Barakah. So one thing that would be cool from your perspective is sort of, what's your thoughts on how Firoza Finance works, how Barakah works, but also how do you see this developing over time, and what do you see their interaction as? Because I deeply believe that these two products were carefully curated by the team. I genuinely believe this, and they were designed and thought of to work together, not just in isolation, which they can do, but also they could be used together to doubly benefit the community.
For the Firoza Finance, once again, we have to keep in mind that whatever we are doing now, we're trying to start very small, but thinking very big, right? And hoping for the best that we can pull it off. So the Firoza, actually, even though still now it just recently launched, and it's by this day it has a wonderful traction as it is. So the TVL is several $1 million, and it's actually growing, and it just opened up for actual, I guess, the actual inflows, and gradually it will be more, I would say, community driven, because in the same manner as others projects like well-known projects as a Centrifuge or Goldfinch or Function, which are doing essentially the same, but just not in a Sharia compliant way. They've been governed by an actual community, and they're decided on for example, on the credibility of the borrowers and whether they can be allowed to participate in the pools or not, or deploy the pools. So, since the Firoza represents itself as the tokenized sukuk, essentially, because we're talking about that of Mudaraba, the big vision that I have, and actually the team of Firoza has, is that at some point in the future, it will be that significant and that big and that successful that an actual sovereign sukuks can be deployed there. By that I mean that currently, for example, the Indonesia, when it issues the sovereign sukuks, they're being given it out for the subscription to the Wall Street. They have So it's a classical way how the things have been done. Yeah. So, and it's absolutely fine. But what we want to do is to give an opportunity to the financial institutions and the whole countries, Muslim countries, to actually issue those contracts for the crypto audience as well. Because in my view, when you do have a holders or the users of the crypto, of the DeFi, who are on the Sharia compliance side, who are concerned about the ethicality of their finances and actually the reliability of their investments, for them it could be a magnificent opportunity to actually give out, to actually loan their funds to the whole countries, yeah, in a Sharia compliant and ethical way. It's a long-term investment, yes, but it is what it is. And I think that this is actually, circling back to our previous question, toppling up, this is where the technology opens up new opportunities. And the Firoza, like the big vision of Firoza, is like this. So now Firoza helps to, it's, I would say, something that it can be called like C2B, C2B2B, because it's crypto users who are pooling the funds, giving it out to the companies, or they're giving it out to the professional microfinance organizations or similar companies. It's all about like testing it in a very humble manner, like somewhat safe, because a lot of the liquidity, I mean, we are risking our liquidity to actually test it out, to do everything in a proper way. But slowly and gradually, it will scale. And hopefully, it will scale to the state where it will be actually eligible platform to issue sukuk contracts for the whole countries, for the countries itself. For the BarakaFi, I would say that this is the most retail product that we created so far, right? It's heavily relying on our desire for people to I would say, keep, stake, hold essentially their SLM tokens and simultaneously have an access to the classical liquidity in case they need such. So the BarakaFi, which is yet to be launched, and which will be launched next week, I think, from our from this particular from this day, they this is essential element, and I would say the idea with the BarakaFi is to actually, the first of all, is to bring this new perception to our core audience about the, I would say, safety of such operations, because by this day, all the like borrow, loan stuff, it's a little bit complex for our, not just for our audience, but actually for the mass adoption. I mean, I know a lot of my friends who went to the university with me, people who are like very smart, like educated, having their wonderful careers. If you ask them, how do you know how, for example, Ava functions, it's like a lending protocol, and you're trying to understand them, that there is like a collateral, there is a default rates, and the liquidation rates, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh, no. It's complex. I better go and sell my half of ETH just to get my money. Yeah, I know it's growing, so it pains me to do that. But no, it's such a complex procedure. So you need to over collateralize it. What does it mean? What happens? There is some health factor. So it's hard. And the more you are working in the industry, in the crypto industry, the more you keep forgetting. I mean, you're like forgetting more and more how actually hard it is to learn about all these particularities if you're coming from outside. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot. So it's a lot. Yeah, and we're trying to simplify this experience, and this is essentially what BarakaFi is for. So we're trying to simplify the experience here, still staying on the Sharia compliance side, because of course the BarakaFi, I mean, it was not easy. It took almost half a year just to design the system, how the classical loan platform would function, being still Sharia compliant. So yeah, it was not easy.
Absolutely. I think that's brilliant sort of overviews. Would it be fair to say that the stage HAQQ Network is in now, you'd call it the demonstration stage or the demo stage? So this is sort of the stage where all these products, BarakaFi, Feroza, Sushi, Atlas, Dean, anything that's going fair share, everything that's going to come. This is the stage where people can have a look and see how it's working. And it's demonstrating, or, you use the word showcasing the functionality of HAQQ Network and these products, and how when people look at it, they can see it as, well, actually it is Sharia compliant. Because it sounds to me like there's greater plans for, the coming days, weeks, months, years, as to how this can, in the long term, scale to a much larger growth phase. So it seems to me very much that we are in this demo phase, the demonstration phase of what, I guess, in some ways, Web3 could be to Sharia compliant financing and the broader sort of Islamic space.
Partially, I agree, of course. As I was saying, we're trying to be the pioneers here, right? And by saying that, I mean that we doing something very innovative. I mean, it is innovative, but it's a fancy word for what we are doing. Like, we're doing innovation, so that's why it's hard. Yeah, because when you dig into this, the innovation means that many of your counterparties will be not just skeptical, they will be in many senses against you, against the idea. So it's just they might not like the idea, they might not like the people who are doing that. So you still have to tackle a lot of things, a lot of problems before you can even have a chance to prove that you're right. So, and it comes to everything. I mean, it actually plays to everything, to the regulation, to the business side, to the your partners, your advisors, to a lot of people around is just saying like, well, no, it's impossible. Don't even bother, or even if it's possible, it will be so hard to pull off that it's don't do that. I mean, like, don't bother. So instead of trying to convince everybody that it is worth building, we decided to build it. So we thought that we will find those relatively small group of visionaries, people and companies who believe in that this can be not just done, but it will actually change things, and showcase it by ourselves. And then by being the first ones to do that, trying to attract more audience and more companies and actually more startups, more supporters, by just showing that, no, it is possible. I mean, yes, it is. It's not easy. It's not easy. You will be questioned a lot. You will be. That will be a very uneasy journey. I recently calculated myself that the last time I haven't worked for the whole day was almost 3 years ago. So aside of that, yeah, there was not a single day that I would not, even if I have a freakishly high fever, I would still respond to the messages and the calls. So there are a lot of things that you have to actually sustain, go through, to get to the stage where you will be listened. And we decided that we are ready to go for it, as we're ready to pay that dues. So and it means essentially, like, get yourself together, build those products yourself, test them out, and then people will start to believe that you maybe there's might be actually something. And I'm very happy that we are collecting such people, such as yourself, actually, along the way, that there are those visionaries. And my job here is to make the project in a way that there will be more people like you, those believers who understand that this is actually, yes, it's complex, but it's a simple idea. Yeah, there has to be an alternative to the greed-driven DeFi. There has to be alternative to the scammy crypto. Yeah, there has to be. I mean, and it will be essentially. It's just about how you are, has the better take on it. And I think that the Sharia finances in this particular instance is the best option, the best solution for that.
I might be wrong on this, but I'm sure I read a statistic a few years ago that post the, we just briefly talked about, the post-COVID shock, where the vast, basically capital around the world dried. It just happened overnight. It just stopped because the whole world stopped, basically. But essentially, I read a statistic where Sharia-compliant financing products and Sharia-compliant nation states had less of a shock than, say, traditional finance states. People that offer essentially riba-based loans, and they have these. You mentioned synthetic derivatives that basically have long-term call options and whatever else. So I think it's just very interesting for me as a humble student of the world and everything else that's before us, that it's a very interesting concept, and to have that on a sort of fortified basis like HAQQ Network and in the Web3 space, it's a very interesting opportunity as far as I can see it. And I think it's really cool that the way that you just explained that it's very much we're very much on the cusp of something special. The reason honestly I've been in the HAQQ Network space now for about two and a half years now, and I have to say it's very special what I see from the bottom of my heart. And I'm not saying this just because obviously we're here on a podcast. I think it'd be a bit counterproductive if I didn't say it, but but I genuinely mean this from the bottom of my heart. The vision and the growth of the network are something that I really appreciate. And honest to God, it's one of the reasons why I'm still here, and one of the reasons why HAQQ Network will always have my support. I genuinely believe in what's happening here, and I genuinely believe that the people are there to see us through to this forward phase. So on that note, Alex, we've been going for quite a while, and I'm really sorry. But I just want to say, I just want to say, is there any remarks that you want to give to the community in closing? Is there anything that you want to say to our brothers and sisters who are listening, or our brothers and sisters who will listen in time?
I guess aside of once again that I'm more than just grateful for the support, and more just grateful for those who are actually looking into what we are doing and seeing the importance and seeing the actual potential of what we are doing, despite the complexities and the pitfalls that we are going through. That you are an amazing supporters, and we are working every day without weekends, as I said previously, mostly to make the change, to bring those products, to bring those solutions, to make the network big, successful, efficient, to make the token popular. And by that, I'm saying that more and more people will come. This is something that we live with. It is impossible to overstate how important for us what we are doing, and we keep doing it for the community. So we have dedicated basically our lives to that now. And the biggest thing that I think I can actually ask of our community is to make their own judgment by getting into the details, seeing what we are trying to say, hearing what we are trying to say, see what we're trying to show, and to see the world in a same manner as we're seeing it now, with this blue ocean of the possibilities, and to build in an actual big holistic ecosystem for everyone.
Absolutely. And I 100% echo the statements. Those were very fair words indeed, Alex. You're always quite the orator, and I always appreciate it. I'm not going to say anything else.
But thank you. Yeah, you're a smooth talker.
I'm not going to say anything else because I think you encapsulated this conversation and HAQQ Network and everything so beautifully. So what I will say merely in concluding remarks is thank you all. Thank you one and all for joining today. I really appreciate it. Please do share this broadly so we can have other people listen to the mission of HAQQ and where we're going, and so we can share the knowledge of Sharia compliant crypto investments, but also the broader scope of HAQQ Network and how we're trying to get Web3 into the general verse. As you heard from Brother Alex, it's not just about DeFi, Sharia compliant DeFi or halal DeFi. It's a whole way of living and trying to make that sort of a more clearer fashion. So please do subscribe to this podcast. Please leave a review. Follow us on the various social media, whether that's Discord, Telegram, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever it is. Please do follow us, and we'll have loads of more exciting content. As I said, this is the inaugural podcast. We're hoping to see some really cool stuff coming up. I won't tell you what the next episode is. You're gonna have to tune in to find out. And from my perspective, Alex, as ever, thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate it, brother. This has been a very enlightening podcast for me, and I've learned a lot from this. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.